Hello, this is Morel Bernard with Study Coach UK channel on YouTube with a continuation of the story Little Men. And if I sound a little hoarse, yes, a little bit under the weather, but hopefully I will be fine. Hopefully I'll be fine. So, and by the way, please subscribe to Study Coach UK on YouTube. Please subscribe to the channel and please share with others. Last words were that by the time Nat was washed and done up in a blanket by the fire, while Nursey cut his hair, a new detachment of boys arrived and were shut into the bathroom, where they made as much splashing and noise as a school of young whales at play. So let me continue. Nat had better sleep here, so that if his cough troubles him in the night, you can see that he takes a good draught of flaxseed tea, said Mrs. Bear, who was flying about like a distracted hen with a large brood of lively ducklings. Nursey approved the plan, finished Nat off with a flannel nightgown, a drink of something warm and sweet, and then tucked him into one of the 3 little beds standing in the room, where he lay looking like a contented mummy and feeling that nothing more in the way of luxury could be offered him. Cleanliness in itself was a new and delightful sensation. Flannel gowns were unknown comforts in his world. Sips of good stuff soothe his cough as pleasantly as kind words did his lonely heart, and the feeling that somebody cared for him made that plain room seem a sort of heaven to the homeless child. It was like a cozy dream, and he often shut his eyes to see if it would not vanish when he opened them again. It was too pleasant to let him sleep, and he could not have done so if he had tried. For in a few minutes, one of the peculiar institution of Plumfield was revealed to his astonished but appreciative eyes. A momentary lull in the aquatic exercises was followed by the sudden appearance of pillows flying in all directions, hurled by white goblins who came writing out of their beds. The battle raged in several rooms all down the upper hall, and even surged at intervals into the nursery, when some hard-pressed warrior took refuge there. No one seemed to mind this explosion in the least, for no one forbade it or even looked surprised. Nursey went on hanging up towels, and Mrs. Bear laid out clean clothes as calmly as if the most perfect order reigned. Nay, she even chased one daring boy out of the room and fired after him the pillow he had sly thrown at her. "Won't they hurt him?" asked Nat, who lay laughing with all his might. "Oh dear, no. We always allow one pillow fight Saturday night. The cases are changed tomorrow, and it gets up a glow after the boys' bath, so I rather like it myself," said Mrs. Bear, busy again among a dozen pairs of socks. "Oh, what a very nice school this is," observed Nat in a burst of admiration. "It's an odd one," laughed Mrs. Bear, "but you see, we don't believe in making children miserable by too many rules and too much study. I forbade nightgown parties at first, but bless you, it was of no use. I could no more keep those boys in their beds than so many jacks in the box. So I made an agreement with them. I was to allow a 15-minute pillow fight every Saturday night, and they promised to go properly to bed every other night. I tried it, and it worked. If they don't keep their word, no frolic. If they do, I just turn the glasses round, put the lamps in safe places, and let them rampage as much as they like. It's a beautiful plan, said Nat, feeling that he should like to join in the fray, but not venturing to propose it the first night. So he lay, enjoying the spectacle, which certainly was a lively one. Tommy Bangs led the assailing party, and Demi defended his own room with a dodged courage fine to see, collecting pillows behind him as fast as they were thrown, till the besiegers were out of ammunition, when they would charge upon him in a body and recover their arms. A few slight accidents occurred, but nobody minded, and gave and took sounding whacks with perfect good humour, while pillows flew like big snowflakes, till Mrs. Bear looked at her watch and called out, "Time is up, boys. Into bed. Every man Jack, or pay the forfeit." "What is a forfeit?" asked Nat, sitting up in his eagerness to know what happened to those wretches who disobeyed this most peculiar but public-spirited school marm. "Lose their fun next week," answered Mrs. Bear. "I give them 5 minutes to settle down. Then put out the lights and expect order. They are honourable lads, and they keep their words." That was evident, for the battle ended as abruptly as it began, a parting shot or two, a final cheer, as Demi fired the 7th pillow at the retiring foe, a few challenges for next time, then order prevailed, and nothing but an occasional giggle or a suppressed whisper broke the quiet which followed the Saturday night frolic, as Mother Bear kissed her new boy and left him to happy dreams of life at Plumfield. While Nat takes a good long sleep, my listeners, I will tell you something about the boys, okay? Among whom he found himself with, of course, when he woke up. To begin with our old friends. Franks was a tall lad of 16 now, a regular German, big, blonde, and bookish, also very domestic, amiable, and musical. His uncle was fitting him for college and his aunt for a happy home of his own hereafter, because she carefully fostered in him gentle manners, love of children, respect for women, old and young, and helpful ways about the house. He was her right-hand man on all occasions, steady, kind, and patient, and he loved his merry aunt like a mother, for such she had tried to be to him. Emile was quite different, being quick-tempered, restless, and enterprising, bent on going to sea, for the blood of the old Viking stirred in his veins, and could not be tamed. His uncle promised that he should go when he was 16 and set him to studying navigation, gave him stories of good and famous admirals and heroes to read, and let him lead the life of a frog in river, pond, and brook when lessons were done. His room looked like the cabin of a man of war, for everything was nautical, military, and ship-shape. Captain Kidd was his delight, and his favourite amusement was to rig up like that piratical gentleman and roar out sanguinary sea songs at the top of his voice. He would dance nothing but sailors' hornpipes, rolled in his gait, and was as nautical in conversation to his uncle would permit. The boys called him Commodore, and took great pride in his fleet, which whitened the pond and suffered disasters that would have daunted any commander but a sea-struck boy. Demi was one of the children who show plainly the effect of intelligent love and care, for soul and body worked harmoniously together. The natural refinement, which nothing but home influence can teach, gave him sweet and simple manners. His mother had cherished an innocent and loving heart in him. His father had watched over the physical growth of his boy and kept the little body straight and strong on wholesome food and exercise and sleep. While Grandpa March cultivated the little mind with the tender wisdom of a modern Pythagoras, not tasking it with long, hard lessons parrots learned, but helping it to unfold as naturally and beautiful as sun and dew help roses bloom. He was not a perfect child by any means, but his faults were of the better sort, and being early taught the secret of self-control, he was not left at the mercy of appetites and passions as some poor little mortals are, and then punished for yielding to the temptations against which they have no armour. A quiet, quaint boy was Demi, serious yet cheery, quite unconscious that he was unusually bright and beautiful, yet quick to see and love intelligence or beauty in other children. Very fond of books, and full of lively fancies, born of a strong imagination and a spiritual nature. These traits made his parents anxious to balance them with useful knowledge and helpful society, lest they should make him one of those pale, precocious children who amaze and delight a family sometimes, and fade away like hothouse flowers, because the young soul blooms too soon, and has not a hearty body to root it firmly in the wholesome soil of this world. So Demi was transplanted to Plumfield, and took so kindly to the life there that Meg and John and Grandpa felt satisfied that they had done well. Mixing with the other boys brought out the practical side of him, roused his spirit, and brushed away the pretty cobwebs he was so fond of spinning in that little brain of his. To be sure, he rather shocked his mother when he came home by banging doors, saying, "By George," emphatically, and demanding tall, thick boots that clumped like papa's. But John rejoiced over him, laughed at his explosive remarks, got the boots, and said contentedly, "He's doing well, so let him clump. I want my son to be a manly boy, and this temporary roughness won't hurt him. We can polish him up by and by, and as for learning, he will pick that up as pigeons do peas, so don't hurry him." Daisy was as sunshiny and charming as ever, with a sort of womanliness budding in her, for she was like her gentle mother, and delighted in domestic things. She had a family of dolls, whom she brought up in the most exemplary manner. She could not get on without her little work basket and bits of sewing, which she did so nicely that Demi frequently pulled out his handkerchief to display her neat stitches. And baby Josie had a flannel petticoat beautifully made by Sister Daisy. She liked to quiddle about the china closet, prepare the salt cellars, put the spoons straight on the table, and every day went round the parlour with her brush, dusting chairs and tables. Demi called her a Betty, but was very glad to have her keep his things in order, lend him her nimble fingers in all sorts of work, and help him with his lessons, for they kept abreast there, and had no thought of rivalry. The love between them was as strong as ever, and no one could laugh Demi out of his affectionate ways with Daisy. He fought her battles valiantly, and never could understand why boys should be ashamed to say right out that they loved their sisters. Daisy adored her twin, thought, my brother, the most remarkable boy in the world, and every morning, in her little wrapper, trotted to tap at his door with a motherly, get up, my dear, it's most breakfast time, and here's your clean collar. Rob was an energetic morsel of a boy who seemed to have discovered the secret of perpetual motion, for he never was still. Fortunately, he was not mischievous, nor very brave. So he kept out of trouble pretty well and vibrated between father and mother like an affectionate little pendulum with a very lively tick. For Rob was a chatterbox. Teddy was too young to play a very important part in the affairs of Plumfield, yet he had his little sphere and filled it beautifully. Everyone felt the need of a pet at times, and Baby was always ready to accommodate, for kissing and cuddling suited him excellently. Mrs. Joe seldom stirred without him, so he had his little finger in all the domestic pies, and everyone found them all the better for it, for they believed in babies at Plumfield. Dick Brown and Adolphus or Dolly Pettingill were two 8-year-olds. Dolly stuttered badly, but was gradually getting over it, for no one was allowed to mock him, and Mr. Bear tried to cure it by making him talk slowly. Dolly was a good little lad, quite uninteresting and ordinary, but he flourished here, and went through his daily duties and pleasures with placid content and propriety. Dick Brown's affliction was a crooked back. Yet he bore his burden so cheerfully that Demi once asked in his queer way, do humps make people good-natured? I'd like one if they do. Dick was always merry, and did his best to be like other boys, for a plucky spirit lived in the feeble little body. When he first came, he was very sensitive about his misfortune, but soon learned to forget it, for no one dared remind him of it after Mr. Bear had punished one boy for laughing at him. God don't care, for my soul is straight if my back isn't, sobbed Dick to his tormentor on that occasion, and by cherishing this idea, the Bears soon led him to believe that people also loved his soul and did not mind his body, except to pity and help him to bear it. Playing manager once with the others, someone said, what animal will you be, Dick? Oh, I'm the dromedary. Don't you see the hump on my back? Was the laughing answer. So you are, my nice little one that don't carry loads, but marches by the elephant first in the procession, said Demi, who was arranging the spectacle. I hope others will be as kind to the poor dear as my boys have learned to be, said Mrs. Joe, quite satisfied with the success of her teaching, as Dick ambled past her, looking like a very happy but a very feeble little dromedary, besides stout Stuffy, who did the elephant with ponderous propriety. Jack Ford was a sharp, rather a sly lad who was sent to this school because it was cheap. Many men would have thought him a smart boy, but Mr. Bear did not like his way of illustrating that Yankee word, and thought his unboyish keenness and money-loving as much of an affliction as Dolly's stutter or Dick's hump. Ned Baker was like 1,000 other boys of 14, all legs, blunder and bluster. Indeed, the family called him the blunderbuss, and always expected to see him tumble over the chairs, bump against the tables, and knock down any small articles near him. He bragged a good deal about what he could do, but seldom did anything to prove it, was not brave, and a little given to tale-telling. He was apt to bully the small boys and flatter the big ones, and without being at all bad, was just the sort of fellow who could very easily be led astray. George Cole had been spoiled by an over-indulgent mother who stuffed him with sweetmeats till he was sick, and then thought him too delicate to study, so that at 12 years old he was a pale, puffy boy, dull, fretful, and lazy. A friend persuaded her to send him to Plumfield, and there he soon got waked up, for sweet things were seldom allowed, much exercise required, and study made so pleasant that Stuffy was gently lured along till he quite amazed his anxious mamma by his improvement, and convinced her that there was really something remarkable in Plumfield air. Billy Ward was what the Scotch tenderly call an innocent. For though 13 years old, he was like a child of 6. He had been an unusually intelligent boy, and his father had hurried him on too fast, given him all sorts of hard lessons, keeping at his book 6 hours a day, and expecting him to absorb knowledge as a Strasbourg goose does, the food crammed down its throat. He thought he was doing his duty, but he nearly killed the boy. For a fever gave the poor child a sad holiday, and when he recovered, the overtasked brain gave out, and Billy's mind was like a slate over which a sponge has passed, leaving it blank. It was a terrible lesson to his ambitious father. He could not bear the sight of his promising child changed to a feeble idiot, and he sent him away to Plumfield, scarcely hoping that he could be helped, but sure that he would be kindly treated. Quite docile and harmless was Billy, and it was pitiful to see how hard he tried to learn, as if groping dimly after the lost knowledge which had cost him so much. Day after day, he pored over the alphabet, proudly saying A and B, and thought that he knew them. But on the morrow, they were gone, and all the work was to be done over again. Mr. Bear had infinite patience with him, and kept on in spite of the apparent hopelessness of the task, not caring for book lessons, but trying gently to clear away the mist from the darkened mind and give it back intelligence enough to make the boy less a burden and an affliction. Mr. Bear strengthened his health by every aid she could invent, and the boys all pitied and were kind to him. He did not like their active plays, but would sit for hours watching the doves would dig holes for Teddy till even that ardent grubber was satisfied, or follow Silas, the man, from place to place, seen him work, for honest Silas was very good to him. And though he forgot his letters, Billy remembered friendly faces. I'll stop there now. When I come back, I will tell you about Tommy Banks. Right, Bangs. So I will be back. So look out for the next video of Little Men. I will be back soon. And please subscribe, and please look out for the next video, next episode of Little Men. Morale saying, a bunged up Morale saying, I'll see you then. Bye.